Dominic, wedding DJ.
And this is Serena, wedding planner.
And together we are the Wedding Duo. We are here to talk all things weddings.
Planning a wedding can be stressful, but we are here to help.
So before you say, that's it, we're going to Vegas, don't go to Vegas.
Let's have some fun.
Join us as we answer your wedding questions and help navigate planning one of the biggest days of your life with the Wedding Duo. Hello, everyone. We are back.
Back at it again.
Not just we're back, we have a guest back. Sarah, you're the first guest to be a returning guest. That's big for us. Isn't that big?
It's big. And we looked back. It has been over a year since we had Sarah on, and we were rewatching the episode, and I was kind of enamored by the information and the conversation. It was just incredible.
With yourself. You were like, did I say that? Look how smart I am.
Don't tell all my secrets.
It's okay. It's weird to go back. She hates listening to it again. And so this was like one of the first times in all 68 episodes that like she's ever gone back and listened. So having said, Sarah, no H, that's how I like to say it, the CEO of Honeyfund, welcome back, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I had such a fun time talking to you almost a year and a half ago. I can't believe it. Time flies. And yeah, that was a great episode. And I think we have so much more to talk about, which is the most exciting part.
I'm always worried, I'm like, she wants to come back. I guess that's a good sign. Like, oh, please, not these two again. No, tell them we closed the business. Tell them anything, just not.
No, it's exciting. It's exciting because I think a lot of the focus for last episode was not only talking about Honeyfund and all the great things that it does, but we also were talking about just honeymoons in general and couple dynamics and all this great stuff. So all that to say, you can go back and watch that episode. And today's episode is going to be totally different and fantastic in its own way.
It was like 34. I think it was number 34.
Yep.
I was looking.
Truth.
There you go.
So
what are we on now? What is it? 60 something?
Yeah. Now we're creeping up on 70. Sarah, for anyone who doesn't know what Honeyfund is, which I'd be surprised if you're out in the wedding world that you don't, tell us a little bit about Honeyfund.
All right. Honeyfund is a gift registry where you can make your dream honeymoon happen. Really anything that you need to start off your happily ever after with your partner. So, and basically it's just powered by your friends and family that love you and are willing to pitch in to make that dream happen. So you're going to create an account. You're going to list all the fun stuff you want to do on your honeymoon. You're going to get your guests really pumped about being part of this experience for you. And then they're going to give you the cash and you get to take that away and book that trip and go start your beautiful marriage together. That's my favorite part.
Yes. And your guests, these people, family and friends who are excited about your marriage, they get to be part of it, right? This allows you to get them involved in a way that I don't think traditional registries really do, right?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the spatula story from last time,
Yes, the spatula. Let's talk more about that.
No,
I really feel like, yes, guests love Honeyfund because they love being part of this. Like, and sometimes guests are really thoughtful, like, hey, we're buying them this dinner at this restaurant in Paris because that's where we went on our honeymoon. Or, oh, I know how much it's meant to them to take this trip. I'm going to make it really fun. I'm going to surprise them with a room upgrade or something like that, right? So and I think more and more people are looking to have great experiences together, to bond through great experiences. I don't know if you follow the love languages, but they recently came out with 2 more, and one of them is shared experiences.
Really?
I think that trend is just going around, and people, not just the couple, but all the guests want to be.
Yes. And so that's kind of like will segue us into the topic today. And we're going to sprinkle Honeyfund fun facts in there.
Wait, before we do that.
Oh,
what's the other one?
what do you mean?
The other new love language. Do you remember?
I don't off the top of my head, and I really should, but yeah, shared experiences. I mean, how great is that? Like that, touch, and there's gifting and there's all that kind of stuff. But let's go on a trip together. Let's go. I mean, even as a dating trend, I see people joking around skip the dates and let's get to know each other in the Bahamas or something, right?
Yes.
Why not just get out and do fun things together?
Yes.
Because life is just a lot, and it's harder and harder to make ends meet, and we have to focus more and work harder, and we just need to relax and balance that intensity with some really fun times.
That's my new love language. I'm touching, but I want it to be ours. Let's do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Can you pick them? Can you pick your love? Is it just like
No, I
that's
don't
in
think
you, right?
so.
I know. Dang it.
Sure you
No.
can. Of course you can. It's what speaks to you. It's what feels right to you. If you explore that, all the languages are part of every relationship. I think it's just one of those like which one kind of is more meaningful to you, and that can change over time. That can change in your relationship. Like if you guys are really good at touch, why not explore a new one, right?
Yes.
Is that you should put that as a drop-down box on Honeyfund. Like, what is your love language? And if it's touch, like, look at our massages. Look what I like couples massage.
Oh my gosh,
Huh?
I love
Huh?
that.
We're
Hey,
brainstorming here.
all right, yeah, right there.
I know I sidetracked the whole thing.
You
I
do,
do know
and
that.
guys, if you listen to any of our podcasts, you will notice I have to keep us on track quite often. So let's get back to it. But we want to talk about in general in life, and we kind of just did with the love language thing. So it is more on the track
See?
than we
Thank
think.
you.
Why do we think that couples for their wedding planning, for their honeymoon, in general in their relationship, are prioritizing experiences over things, over stuff,
Mm.
over aesthetics, right? So we were talking before we started the episode about the fact that a lot of couples, it's trending to have smaller events so that they can actually have, maybe a wedding weekend where they get to spend more than just 6 hours with their guests. They get there on Friday, they leave on Sunday, right? And that allows them to have that memory of the whole weekend with people, right?
Right. Yeah, and I love that because when you think about a traditional wedding formula, one of the things that I think gets lost is the ability for the couple to really experience something with their guests. The guest, you kind of almost feel like I never talked to that person. I barely got to say hello, and it's like a whirlwind. And you feel like, oh, that all went by. All those people came here for us and now they're gone and I haven't even really bonded with them. So I love that trend. I love the idea of like focus in on like who's truly important in your life. Who do you really want to spend this time with? Who do you want to actually be able to, catch up with or like talk about what's going on in their lives? And so, yeah, I think that's totally on point. And I think it started with it's it's the whole idea of like, let's go travel and let's get out of here and let's go experience stuff together. I think that started with sort of like the social media, like Instagram, Pinterest kind of moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what really locked it in was COVID
Yes.
because we were all stuck inside our homes, staring at the same faces every day, completely like drooling over the next trip we're going to take. And once that lockdown was up, I mean, people, and we're seeing people go from Hawaii being our number one destination for all time to Italy being our number one destination last time we talked.
Mhm.
To now it's like Asia, like Japan, Thailand. Like people are going farther, more exotic, more like flavors, more tastes, more, sensations.
Changing
Yes.
up the cards. That's a further and it's different too, because my experience in Europe is you can find someone who speaks English every third person. Somebody will be good enough because they take English like we take English in grade school. They learn it because it's like the international business language, all that stuff. But Asia is
Right.
not as much. And street signs. It is harder to like I lost my backpack I was in Malaysia and my backpack didn't make it. And I walked up to the thing, but luckily they had pictures and I'm like, it looks like this. It's kind of like, the struggle was real.
Right.
It
And
was like, it's a whole different thing. So that's so exciting that people are like, yeah, let's go to Asia. I love it.
and challenge themselves too, right? And we talked about this last episode. We talked about how traveling together really shines the light on, your relationship and is different than your day-to-day interaction with your partner, right? So going somewhere that is really foreign in the sense that, you may not have a chance to speak the language, like you said, very frequently. That is an experience not only for you as an individual, but for you as a couple, right? To
Mhm.
navigate those waters together.
Definitely. And then, there's the challenges, but then there's also all the beauty and all of the tastes and flavors and all of the like, oceans and, places that you've never seen. Like having those rare experiences together, it bonds you in a way that like you wouldn't be bonded with someone who you didn't do that with.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is like people always talk about, like on the last episode, you talked about when you were exhausted from traveling and they swung open the doors and you saw Lake Como and the Alps. Like that was a moment. And I'm picturing it. Wait, is Lake Como still number one? Have you gone somewhere better since then?
have not gone anywhere better since Lake Como. I
I
mean,
was gonna say, that sounds like that's like a solid number one. It's gonna be
Mhm.
tough to uproot that. But even like that's of course the big wow, like the things you saw on the postcards. But for me, when I'm traveling, just like you're fiddling with the currency, like, oh, look at this funny coin. I mean, the little things, you're on a cab drive and you're having some conversation. I was in Egypt and at night, nobody had their headlights on. And
Oh,
I'm driving around and they're just swinging around people on bikes with things on their heads and motorcycles, like you mentioned, they're flying. And I'm like, I'm just in the cab. I landed. I'm in the cab drive. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, turn your headlights on. But they were street lights and they would flash them. But I'm like, why are you? Why is that? It was
wow.
just, it's like I said, nobody puts the cabs on the postcard. But I remember it so well.
Mhm. And
yeah.
that's what we're talking about is those memories through your wedding, through your honeymoon, right? Creating those core moments
Yeah.
that you can tell your kids and your grandkids about, right? Like, remember when we were back in Egypt
Yes,
and they didn't
right.
have their, yeah,
I mean, of
exactly.
course, you're going to talk about the pyramids, but I mean, all these other things. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think couples more and more are so excited for that that they're actually planning it before the wedding. So like I was talking to someone the other day and I heard they got engaged. I'm like, hey, congratulations. What's the plan? And he's like, oh, all we know is we're going to Japan on our honeymoon.
Yes.
Start there. I love it.
Love that. Think about how many times couples get bombarded with all the detailed questions. The second they get engaged, they don't know anything. Do I know where I'm having my wedding? No. Do I know who's officiating? No. Do I know what kind of chicken or fish I'm having? No. But do I know that I want to go to Fiji or Thailand or, absolutely I do. And so I think that we can almost normalize like talking about the honeymoon as a way to get excited about this couple's like future together without bombarding them with all those questions about the wedding that they're not going to.
Yes. And tell us the fact to back it up that you told us last time about the research about couples' longevity of their relationship. Can you
Yeah.
revisit that a little bit?
Absolutely. This is my favorite stat. I get goosebumps every time I say it. A Honeyfund's research shows that couples who took a honeymoon are more likely to be happily married more than a decade later than couples who didn't take a honeymoon. And
Yeah.
that holds true even when you continue to travel together. So we say couples who travel together stay together. And couples who, even if it's just a little mini moon or a fancy date night, building in those honeymoon moments into your like daily lives kind of keeps you focused on the romance, keeps you focused on why you fell in love in the first place. And it's really like a bonding. It's like a reinforcement through your whole marriage. And so we're all about that.
Yes. And
Investing in your relationship is how you put it last time. I'm like, that is just
yep.
brilliant
Yeah.
because it's so hard. You mentioned how COVID, everyone was staring at the same faces. I feel like we still live that life. I don't know. We work together and live together, and the kids are on Christmas, summer break, and we're just like, these are the same four set faces I stared at all day yesterday. I'm just kidding. I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you do. You've got to kind of reset every once in a while. And that's through wedding planning. That's with your honeymoon and travel as you're, go through your years married together. It takes effort to revisit again, as you said, Sarah, why you're there and together in the first place. It takes effort to do so, right? Meaningful time together. And that takes planning.
Absolutely. And when you think about like how you spend your time with someone when you first start dating, when you're first falling in love, even when you're newly married, a lot of your time together is doing fun things together, being romantic or talking about your dreams or, all that fun stuff. And then as the business of life takes over with kids and home and starting a business together, which I can very much relate to, you almost like don't ever do that stuff anymore. And so like you said, you've got to invest in it. You've got to make time for it. And I really do truly think I've been doing a lot of research on what makes love last. This is really interesting and important to me because I've been through divorce. And I really think that it's being intentional about the time you're spending together. And then being able to repair conflict is the other big one, but that's topic for another day.
Yeah.
I think
I love
compatibility is a thing too. It's like when you really,
Definitely.
it's not because we were both married before as well. We both had a swing and a miss. And we're happily married, right? Aren't we still? Okay. I'm speaking on behalf
mostly
of myself. But it's so much easier. It was so hard. For me, I was like, it shouldn't be this hard,
Yeah.
but it was hard. And there's moments you go through hard times, of course. And it's not, there's times where, whatever, some random thing just gets caught in the middle of everything. But day to day, it's not hard.
Right. And I think you build a certain amount of resilience in your relationship through being intentional with your time together, like we're talking about, right? It gives you almost this like arsenal of memories and moments that you can draw on when times are hard, right? You can draw from that.
Oh, arsenal sounds pretty aggressive. It sounds more like I'm going to save this comment till he's really, really in the throes of it, and then
No, but that works. That works for wedding planning too. So for you guys that are out there and you're struggling, right? Because there's pressure, there's stress, whether it be for planning your honeymoon or your wedding or, life in general. We always talk about taking time out to remember why you're there in the first place and appreciate the journey because you're, hopefully never going to plan another wedding again or go on another honeymoon again. And it's important to just keep that at the forefront of your mind. And I think that's also why couples are more concerned with creating an event or a honeymoon that is full of genuine experiences, right? Things they and their guests will remember for years to come.
Definitely. And I think that whole process of planning a wedding with your partner, because it is so challenging, it's probably the biggest, most expensive thing you've done together to date in your relationship. You can learn a lot about someone and how, we talked about repairing conflict. This is a great example that there's going to be times when you don't agree. Like maybe your partner wants to do the whole weekend and have 50 guests, and maybe you want to do more traditional and have 150. And how do you bridge that? How do you come to an agreement? How do you arrive at something that feels right to both of you? And, how do you're going to have disagreements, no matter how compatible you are, no matter how in love you are, there's going to be times like, I don't know, what they want isn't really what I want. So how do we do that together? And I think it's such a great training ground for your whole marriage. If you had sort of if you could sort of rise above it and just watch it unfold, I've had people who have been happily married and people who've been divorced can look back at that process and be like, yeah, there were some things there that I paid attention to, right?
Absolutely.
Well, plus you learn what to say, what not to say, or if sometimes we've had these conversations where she'll bring something up and I know myself, this is something just about being mature maybe, but I'm not saying I'm mature. I just maybe
I was going
older,
to say,
but I'll tell her I can't have this talk right now because I can feel I'm overtired. I'm emotional. This won't end well. It's like, you just feel it and you're just like, pause. We'll talk about this tomorrow when I'm not in the I don't know,
in a better headspace.
Yeah. And I'm not so emotional. I'm not so vulnerable because automatically I start lining up the things I want to say. And I'm like, this is not, no.
Right.
Time out, and that again, when I was younger, that's what I meant by mature. Like I'm older. I've been through it a few times. You just learn let's just wait. No, that's not good.
Yeah, you learned and you intentionally applied that to your relationship, which is so amazing. Like that's what I think what we all have to do as we grow up. And so I think, yes, compatibility is part of it, but it's also like, how much are we willing to grow and learn and do the things that make a relationship work and not do the things that don't make a relationship work. And again, going back to travel and experiences, I think that investing that time together when you're in a fun experience that is not going to emotionally trigger you. Like what emotionally triggers you? Like the dishes or, who's picking up the kid or oh, you didn't do that errand that I asked for the 7th time in a row or whatever. Like you don't have any of that when you're traveling. You just get to go and enjoy each other and no judgment. You do what you want to do. I do what I want to do, but we're kind of here together and we're going to invest in each other. And it's just special. And I think people are just realizing that more and more because of what we went through in COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, I want to remind people of why my favorite part of Honeyfund, right, is the ability to gift those experiences. And we touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but Sarah, describe to our listeners how exactly that works through the registry, right? Like how the guests are able to select an experience.
So this is one of my most fun topics because we're working on it really hard right now at Honeyfund. We have 18 years of honeymoon data in our database. Destinations, fun itinerary items that couples did together, what was most gifted, what's most popular by state, all kinds of really cool information that we never really used intelligently until recently. So we recently started helping couples sort of pre-populate their registry based on our data. And, based on what destination they put in, they sign up. So you can sort of start with a wish list of things that we recommend based on other couples who went to that destination. So like in Hawaii, it's going to be things like the luau's and the duck tours and, the seeing a volcano and all that fun stuff. What we're doing next is we're taking AI and we're combing through all that data and coming up with a way that couples can actually use that sort of a chat GPT plugged into our data as a trip planner. So
Yes.
now you're like signing on the Honeyfund and you're, telling us where you're going and you're building your dream trip based on our recommendations, just chatting through with almost like your personalized travel planner. And then that all becomes your Honeyfund registry. So that's the project that I'm most excited about in the 18 years of Honeyfund.
You should be. That sounds phenomenal, right?
That's crazy.
Yes.
You are technically like molding their trip. I mean, you're
Right.
like, and I thought about that as I was listening. We mentioned that we went back and we're watching the earlier one when we met earlier. And I was listening to I was like, you've changed even before you got knee deep into it. People went onto your site and they were just like, oh, I'm just going to register for this stuff. And they'll be like, wait, we can go. What is that? Like swim with the dolphins, or even if maybe they were even going to like Philadelphia and they go, wait, how far is Gettysburg? Like what? You might take a whole nother trip, find a common interest. You're like, I would love to go there. Like you would, I would. That's okay. Let's put it on the list, right? How exciting to like have your site like changing their whole itinerary.
Right.
Yeah. And then imagine too, like each of you getting to go on and maybe fill a list with things that you want to do and then finding out which ones you had in common. That kind of thing is really fun too.
Yes, yes. And some of these places are kind of like bucket list places for the couples, right? Like, because this is an opportunity to take one of those really big, great trips. But a lot of times, at least when I've planned a big trip before, you're a little bit lost on like what might work for a young couple going to wherever it is, right? So the fact that you have the data from previous couple planning, right? Then you can recommend some good spots, some good experiences, shows, whatever it is. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And there's all kinds of reasons why people can't travel internationally or other limitations they have. They don't have a passport, or maybe somebody's in a wheelchair or something like that. Like the ability for us to really hone in on like the specific needs of every couple is also really exciting for us.
So, when you mentioned before how like I tell people when I say during the wedding, the best man will get the mic, the maid of honor will get the mic. And then I always say, do the two of you want the mic, just to say thanks for everybody for coming? And they're like, oh yeah. I mean, because sometimes they're like, I never got a chance to address my own crowd as the couple.
Yes.
But it goes back to your point. Like you'll have guests and you'll be sitting there, be like, oh my gosh, I just didn't have time to get to everybody. But it gives you the chance to hold the mic and say, thanks everybody for coming. Even if you don't get to physically go there, at least you did one blanket thank you to everybody. But then I'll say like, because you're going to have one table and you're going to be like, oh shoot, the Johnsons came all the way from Seattle and we flew out our honeymoon the next morning. I didn't even get to say hi. So to that point, it's like 6 hours sometimes. You're trying to get to talk to 150 people. Right? Besides getting married, your first dance, you and dad, him and mom, there's a lot going on besides just getting to catch up with your cousins that flew in somewhere. So if you like say, rather to the experiences versus the things, right? You like rented like a cabin, or we were just at a place for 4th of July and there were all these little cabins. It was very Dirty Dancing. I was like, I walked in, I go, am I on the set of Dirty Dancing? I was like, can we go learn the Mamba later or whatever? Yeah. But it was like all these cabins. And I sat there going like, you could do this where they had a hall, you could do the wedding. There's a beautiful site. You could do the ceremony and then the reception. And then everybody can stay there for the weekend. And then the next morning, you're not in your dress. You're just in your yoga pants and your ball cap. And you can sit down at brunch and be like, hey, you finally just get to sit down with your cousins. Not just like, great to see you. Thanks for coming. And you're off, But a whole weekend like that. And then stay in the town that you're in for the week after. Get on Honeyfund and say, what's there to do here? Because we're just going to stay. We've got the honeymoon suite. I mean, how great that just like you found the spot. Now let's go to Honeyfund and find the things to do around that spot.
Right. And then your guests get to participate in, purchasing for you some of those activities or experiences. And then in that way, they're a part of it as well. It's just a beautiful thing.
Like, oh, great. Now we're going water rafting. I don't want to, like, oh, we're going.
Yeah. This is the hardest job, you guys, because every day I see all these incredible places people are going and all the fun stuff they're doing. And I have the worst FOMO.
Yeah. I bet that would drive him especially crazy. Me a little bit, but I'm not nearly as the travel bug as this guy. But Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And you probably get to see not only where they're going, but the things they're doing, right? Like, oh my
We're
gosh,
doing
I would love.
And we actually have like an internal competition called like most creative Honeyfund registry item of the month. And so our customer service team, who sees a lot of these all the time, will get like emails. We email all the couples and say like, do you have a creative item? Like submit it for our little competition. And then we'll, send them a little something for their honeymoon or whatever. It's so
Yeah.
much fun. Seeing really cool like items come through.
Tell us some.
Okay. So we have a lot of couples who are really into Halloween.
Okay.
It's just one of our like sort of affinity audiences. So we've seen like pumpkin carving classes, we'll see like painting classes, all kinds of like cooking stuff, or like little like interesting souvenirs from like a particular place that are very artsy and cool.
Yeah.
Just really, really fun. Like, and then we have couples who are super into like comic book stuff. So they'll have like a whole Marvel themed wedding or like a Harry Potter themed wedding or Star Wars themed wedding. Like so many cool like themes are starting to come forward. And so that you can imagine the registry items for some of those are really, really fun. And we have a lot of couples now who are registering for parts of their wedding too.
Mm-hmm.
And getting back to the conversation about turning the wedding more into like almost a mini wedding moon. Can you call it that? I think I just made up that word, but like,
so you should totally trademark wedding moon because that is fantastic.
We're actually really working hard to kind of expand the language around honeymoon. So, and the definition of a honeymoon. So the honeymoon isn't just the first trip you take when you get married, but it could be like all the trips you take together as a couple, all the romantic sort of investing in your relationship type trips, right? So you could imagine us starting to talk about like, when's your guys' next honeymoon coming up? Where are you going? Like starting to like make that normal to talk about. And then we're also seeing all these extended uses of the word honeymoon. So like the mini moon, which we've been hearing about for a long time. Let's take a short trip right after. Maybe we'll save the big honeymoon for next year when we have more time off. Then we have the idea of like an early moon I just read about yesterday, which is like, let's take a little vacation before the wedding just to kind of unwind and put ourselves in the headspace of that so that we're not like stressed right up to the minute of the wedding day. And then you've got baby moons and anniversary moons and all kinds of like expanded language about honeymoons. And I love this trend. And I really feel like this is our sweet spot. This is where we shine, is this kind of travel. So we're like starting to think about how to leverage all this new vernacular to kind of, expand people's minds around the use of the word honeymoon.
Well, and this generation is ready for it, I think, right? Like the generation of couples that are, getting married now, they don't necessarily want to, pop out 10 kids right away, right? Like there is definitely there's just a change in the shift of making sure that they enjoy each other's time, that they have time together. Maybe if you want to pop 10 kids out right away, that's fine. But also just making sure that you have those younger years to go and travel and be together and, enjoy each other's company before you get more tied down is what I meant.
Speaking of the kids, I was just talking to our kids and I said, it's nice to be able to take these trips where you say like, oh, look, we can go up the mountain. Like when you're young enough to still make it up the mountain, like as opposed I got to wait for the escalator to get put in, I'm like, no, that it's not the same.
No,
way.
not
Like,
the same.
yeah, no.
Yeah. So it's so great. And I just really see today's couples embracing travel, embracing quality time together, embracing just self-awareness, relationship awareness, financial awareness. We're seeing people like really shift the priority of the budget. So we've got, whereas maybe pre-pandemic, you had like maybe a $30,000 wedding and a $3,000 honeymoon. Now you have like a $15,000 wedding and a $5,000 honeymoon.
Yes.
Think about how that ratio has changed, like from 3 to 1 to like, maybe 2 to 1 or whatever.
Sure.
So I find it really interesting that couples are really shifting that budget and being more mindful about it. And I think some of it is necessity. Like people just don't have as much to invest, or their parents aren't able to front as much as maybe they were before. And some of it is just like being mindful. Like we want money left over for our marriage. We want money left over to start saving for a home, or, putting someone through a master's program or paying off loans or whatever it is. Like we're going to make this choice. And we're not going to be sort of sucked into all the sort of emotional decision making that happens around a traditional wedding formula.
Yes.
There will be one at some point, whether you probably, right? So speaking about themes, you're a Harry Potter fan, aren't you? Is that
My daughter is probably the world's foremost Dorothy on
good?
Harry Potter.
Earlier before we started, you were like, "Oh, let me move this beanbag," and you said "beanbag managed." I go, "Oh, I picked up on that." That's a Harry Potter thing.
Yeah.
We've done many Harry Potter themes as well. That's kind of a
We had a whole podcast episode on themes where I don't want to say disagreed. We had different perspectives
mhm.
on themed weddings, meaning
Yeah.
he loves a good, lightsaber fight
Oh
during,
yeah.
first dance, where I'm a little like more like, well, maybe we
When we
can.
were talking about the moons a minute ago, I almost want to jump in my Obi-Wan Kenobi and say, "That's no moon." That's for my Star Wars fans out there. You're welcome. You are what? I know you don't know what it reference. Are you
No, I got
referencing?
it. Death
That's
Star.
it.
I got it. I got
Go ahead.
it. No, I mean, but you did ask me if I've been on any great trips since like Como. I did take my kids to Scotland last summer on a Harry Potter themed trip where we saw filming locations in the Highlands.
The
We
train.
saw Hogwarts Express train.
Yeah.
We did the Cursed Child 2-part stage play in London. I mean, it was like an amazing, amazing trip and
Had
so
you
much
been?
fun to be there. I had never been
Oh
to
my
Scotland.
gosh. Well, this all goes to like continuing, right? We were talking about through your life, whether you're married or not, like
Yeah.
that travel experience. You can do it
Yeah.
with your kids, you can do it with extended family, right? Like, and you've talked about Honey Fund kind of morphed over the years, right? To being more robust than it ever was from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about like that transformation.
Yeah. So we kind of figured out right after the pandemic that we did that research about couples who travel together, stay together, and we realized like we really have an opportunity to be the authority on honeymoon style travel and really how that impacts your relationship. And we started thinking about like can we make Honey Fun something that couples continue to use throughout their marriage? So
Mhm.
let's say they have a 20th anniversary coming up, which we do have couples in 2 years that will be celebrating their 20th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Which is so exciting, or even your 10th or whatever. And let's say, your friends and family are, the people that are so close to you, that love you guys, that want you to win, like they would show up for that 20th anniversary gift, right? Like,
Mhm.
take this trip. We've got it all together, but if you guys want to celebrate us, please don't send us flowers and cards. Just like this is how we want to be celebrated, right? So
Love
that's kind of one idea. But ongoing travel with your family, like being able to bond with my kids on a trip like that and have fun experiences. Like we were on like a Highland coup chase one day. Like we're determined to see these coups with the fringe and like we have to
Whoa.
find them and drove all around the Highlands. We finally found them and just, it was like so much fun to do all those things with our kids. And I think, it definitely put the travel bug in both of my kids.
I love it.
Fortifying not just your love relationship, but also your family bonding time, with travel, I think is so important. So yeah, so we're building all of those features out. I think by this time next year, we will have the AI travel concierge and the sort of subsequent Honey Fund life events live. So super
That's
exciting.
amazing. So it's Honey Fund for your honeymoon and beyond, right?
And not, yeah,
Mhm.
Our kids
exactly.
are they're old enough now that we don't have to go to Disney every year. Like I'm so excited because Scotland, I have a first cousin who lives in London with his family, and they have similarly aged kids. But I took a different Scotland, my favorite place in Europe. I'm sorry, the rest of Europe, but Scotland is. I was like,
So amazing.
we can't just skip over Scotland. I did a different movie trip. I still Braveheart is my favorite movie.
Mhm.
I went to
love that.
Stirling. I went to Bannockburn. I went to also through the Highlands. I was waving my shirt over my head at one point, like Scotland is free. I was there for holiday. It was, I mean, Scotland is Edinburgh, especially. Oh my gosh, special place right here. But we're going for the Potter tour
Probably
too.
the most amazing city in the world. And like absolutely an amazing, beautiful, wonderful city.
The culture, the people, I mean, the accent, even the haggis, the food. I'll go. Come on, I'm all in. I know we
Yeah,
talked about Italy, but the haggis isn't quite lasagna, but it's still good.
like, let's not-
You gotta try it.
us together.
You gotta try it.
Yeah, I know. His brain, sometimes I watch it working. I'm like, how is that connected? But it works out
See?
somehow. Well,
But-
Sarah, this has been fantastic. I really want to give you an opportunity to share with our listeners, like where is the best place to find Honey Fund and get started?
So just go to our website, honeyfund.com, or download the app on the Google Play or Apple App Stores. Our blog is full of travel content that we've been writing now for several years. So if you're looking for inspiration on where to go, There's also tons of great articles about how to plan your wedding on any budget, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever you have. Like I always am really big about who are you today authentically? What's your financial situation? And that's your wedding. That's who you are. Like just own it, right? You can have an incredible wedding in a public space with an ordained friend and 20 people standing up and a cake. And that could be like a beautiful experience that you take with you forever, right? Like, and not to say that there's anything wrong with the traditional formula. And there's absolutely always going to be couples doing that. But I think more and more couples are just thinking outside the box a little bit. So on our blog, you can read all about really cool and interesting types of formulas for weddings that really leave you more budget left over for your honeymoon and the life beyond the wedding day. So we're really excited to meet all your couples, to see all their interesting and fun honey funds, to like get them in our contest for the most creative honey fund registry item and set them off on happily ever after. That's what it's all about.
Oh my gosh. We love you so much. We love Honeyfund.
You know what you've done? I'm going back. I have a story. Before we're done.
Okay.
Back in the day when I was traveling, and Australia is the one that always comes to mind because people, when they go to, have you been to Australia?
Never.
So when you go to Australia, the East Coast where Sydney is, and that people fly into Sydney, but everyone goes up and down there's a lot of beaches, there's a lot of touristy stuff. But usually if you're in a hostel, you're either going up or you're going down. You're going north or south, right? And you'd get to a hostel, and this is no different than any hostel. You walk in and there's that kiosk up front where all the things you could potentially do locally, right? They have the little card.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm talking about? And I would always look and be like, this one looks interesting. This one looks, there's a cave, you can whatever. And then I would go and sit in the hostel, and inevitably somebody has been there and they'd be like, oh, you got to go. So great. Or you'd be like, man, that is it was terrible. I went, it was a waste of money.
Yeah.
And it was like, you'd find out people like, and then there were places they'd say, here's where you need to go. And I haven't seen a flyer. There's no flyer, but it was an amazing trip. You've got everybody who's done all those trips. It's like they're all in one hostel together. And you've got all the people that did all the things, and they're going to rate it and share the things. I mean, it's like a traveler's dream to have all that information to say, great, don't waste your time. Or not even waste your time. It's just, what are you into that I might think is a waste of time, but you might think is great, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sara is a genius. That's what we've decided.
Genius.
Yeah, you guys, I love you so much. You guys are geniuses.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
I'm a genius. I'll take it.
I'm sure you got it.
Sorry, that was a very male boy comment. I'm sorry. Sorry.
So you can for sure find this episode anywhere you listen to a podcast. You can go on our website. We have a link to Honeyfund on multiple pages, but also on the podcast link in the show notes will be a link to the website. So guys, if there's nothing left to say, we'll end it as we always do. And I always have to have you do it because I can never remember.
Nothing left to say. That's not, you can't say that. I could go all day talking with you.
Oh yeah, you could.
Fun. We could go all day. But this is no different than anything else. It's your day. So don't let somebody talk you into something you don't want to do or talk you out of something you have your heart set on. It's your day. If ever there's a day you can make it all about the two of you, this is it.
All right, guys. Happy wedding planning. And Sara, join us with blowing a kiss. Ready?
We do this at the end of everyone now.
All right.
Bye. Thanks again, Sara. Hey, so thanks for listening to our podcast. If you found any of this information helpful and you know someone who may be engaged or is a maid of honor, maybe you could tell them and share it with a friend.
Absolutely. So screenshot this episode, share it on Instagram, on Facebook, and tag the wedding duo. We promise to share the love back. Also, if you are interested in more resources or the show notes, you can go to theweddingduo.co. We have one-on-one virtual sessions, a shop, all sorts of fun stuff. Check it out.